Have you ever looked at the person sitting across from you and felt a strange sense of déjà vu? It's not that they look the same, they don't. Different face, different voice, a different life story, and yet your body recognizes this moment instantly. The tightness in your chest, the way you choose your words more carefully, the quiet fear of saying the wrong thing and losing them. You've been here before. Maybe it shows up late at night, staring at your phone, rereading a message and wondering what that one sentence really meant. Or maybe it's the way you feel slightly smaller around them, more alert, more cautious, less yourself. You might tell yourself it's just bad luck, that you somehow keep meeting the wrong people, that you're too nice, or that you attract chaos. But what if this isn't random at all? What if that familiar mix of anxiety and intensity, the sense of walking on emotional eggshells, isn't a coincidence, but a signal? Not from fate, not from the universe, but from your own nervous system. Because long before you consciously choose someone, your body has already decided whether they feel familiar. And familiar doesn't always mean safe. Sometimes familiar simply means, this is the kind of pain I already know how to survive. And that's where this story really begins. Most people believe they choose their partners logically. They think attraction begins with preference, shared values, chemistry, timing. But the truth is far less conscious than we like to admit. Long before you decide that you like someone, your body has already answered a quieter question. Do they feel familiar? This is because attraction is not a rational process. It's a neurological one. Your subconscious mind is constantly scanning for emotional patterns it recognizes, not for what is healthy, but for what is known. And what is known often comes from your earliest experiences of connection. You might say you want stability, respect, and emotional safety. And consciously, you probably do. But subconsciously, your nervous system may be drawn to unpredictability, distance, or emotional tension, because that's the environment it learned to survive in. Familiarity feels comforting, even when it hurts. This is the paradox that traps so many people. You're not attracted to the person who treats you well because calm doesn't register as meaningful. There's no spike, no urgency, no emotional chase, so your brain labels it as boring and moves on. Meanwhile, the person who keeps you guessing, who gives affection inconsistently, who feels just slightly out of reach, activates something deeper. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral. You feel alive, but that intensity isn't a sign of connection. It's a sign of recognition. Your subconscious isn't asking, is this good for me? It's asking, is this familiar enough for me to navigate? And until that question changes, you will keep mistaking emotional activation for attraction, believing you're choosing love, when in reality, your nervous system is choosing survival. To understand why love so often feels overwhelming instead of calming, we need to look at something psychologists call attachment styles. This isn't about personality or willpower. It's about how your nervous system learned to connect long before you had words for it. Imagine your capacity for intimacy as a radio signal. It was tuned early in life by the people you depended on most. If care was inconsistent, unpredictable, or emotionally distant, your system learned that closeness comes with tension. This is what's known as an anxious attachment style. For someone with anxious attachment, love doesn't feel like a calm lake. It feels like a storm that has to be carefully navigated. You become highly sensitive to shifts in tone and energy. A delayed text can trigger hours of overthinking. A subtle change in someone's mood can feel like an impending loss. Your nervous system is constantly scanning for signs of abandonment, not because you're dramatic, but because at some point disconnection felt dangerous. Here's where it gets confusing. When you meet someone who is emotionally available, consistent, and secure, something feels off. There's no emotional spike, no urgency, no edge. Instead of relief, You feel restless, bored even. That's not because something is missing, it's because your nervous system isn't being activated in the way it's used to. Secure love feels quiet, predictable, steady, and if chaos was once your baseline, that steadiness can feel unfamiliar, almost suspicious. So you find yourself drawn to people who create emotional weather. Highs and lows, distance followed by closeness. Uncertainty that keeps you alert. What you call chemistry is often your attachment system lighting up. Not because this person is right for you, but because your body recognizes the storm. And when love feels like something you have to survive instead of something you can rest inside, that's not romance. It's a nervous system still waiting to feel safe. This is where the pattern locks in. When someone with an anxious attachment style meets someone with an avoidant one, it can feel electric, almost fated. There's an immediate pull, an intensity that's hard to ignore. But what's actually happening isn't romance. It's two nervous systems recognizing each other's wounds. The avoidant partner experiences closeness as pressure. Intimacy feels like a loss of freedom. So when things start to feel emotionally close, they instinctively pull back. They go quiet. They become vague. They create distance without explanation. For the anxious partner, that withdrawal hits like an alarm. Your body interprets it as danger. You feel compelled to reach out, to explain yourself better, to reassure them, and to seek reassurance in return. You lean in just as they step away. This creates a painful loop. The more you chase connection, the more they withdraw. The more they withdraw, the more your fear of abandonment intensifies. Each person is simply trying to feel safe, but together, you trigger each other's deepest fears. From the outside, this looks like passion. The highs feel intoxicating because they follow moments of emotional deprivation. When the avoidant partner suddenly shows affection again, it feels euphoric, like relief after suffocating underwater. But intensity is not intimacy. There's no real emotional safety here, only constant activation. You're not bonding over shared values or mutual care. You're bonding over anxiety, uncertainty, and the hope that this time, the closeness will last. And that hope keeps you stuck. You're not falling in love with who this person truly is. You're falling in love with the moment they come back, with the temporary relief, with the feeling that you've finally been chosen, if only for now. That's why it feels so powerful. And that's also why it hurts so deeply. Because what you're experiencing isn't passion born from connection. It's a survival response that your body has learned to mistake for love. There's a deeper reason this pattern keeps repeating, and it lives far below conscious choice. Psychologists call it repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate painful experiences from the past in the hope that this time the ending will be different. To understand this, you have to look back to where your nervous system first learned what love feels like. For many people who attract toxic relationships, early connection came with confusion. Love may have been inconsistent, conditional, or unpredictable. Maybe a parent was emotionally distant, critical, or unavailable. Maybe affection appeared and disappeared without warning. As a child, you had no power to change that environment. You learned to adapt, to stay alert, to work for closeness. That helplessness didn't disappear when you grew up. It simply went underground. As an adult, your subconscious carries a quiet belief. If I can finally make someone like this love me, then I will prove I was always worthy. So when you enter new spaces, your mind doesn't scan for kindness or stability. It scans for emotional familiarity. It locks onto people who feel like the original wound. This is why toxic relationships feel strangely comfortable. Not because they're good for you, but because your nervous system recognizes the terrain. It knows how to survive here. It knows how to wait, how to hope, how to endure. Healthy love, by contrast, can feel foreign, even unsettling. When someone shows up consistently, your mind doesn't know what to do with the absence of tension. You may feel suspicious, guarded, or emotionally flat. And here's the painful truth. You are not trying to suffer. You're trying to heal the past by replaying it. But you cannot rewrite a childhood story by casting a different person in the same role. You cannot receive the love you missed by convincing someone who is incapable of giving it. Toxic feels like home, not because it's where you belong, but because it's where you first learned how to survive. At some point in this cycle, almost everyone turns the pain inward. You start asking questions that feel heavy and personal. Why do I keep doing this? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just walk away like other people do? The shame creeps in quietly, but it settles deep. This is the part most conversations skip, and the part that hurts the most. Because when patterns repeat, the mind looks for a single explanation, and the easiest one is self-blame. You tell yourself you're weak, too emotional, too attached, not healed enough. You begin to see your sensitivity as a flaw instead of a clue. But here's what almost no one tells you. These patterns didn't come from dysfunction. They came from adaptation. At some point in your life, being hyper-aware of other people's emotions kept you safe. Anticipating moods, minimizing your needs, and staying connected at all costs were not character defects. They were intelligent survival strategies in an environment where love felt uncertain. Your nervous system learned to stay alert because disconnection once felt dangerous. That learning doesn't vanish just because you grow older. It stays in the body, quietly guiding your reactions long after the original threat is gone. Shame convinces you that the problem is who you are. But the truth is, the problem is what you were taught to believe about love and safety. There is nothing broken about you for longing deeply, for hoping things will change, or for staying longer than you should have. Those instincts once helped you endure. They just no longer serve you now. Healing doesn't begin with fixing yourself. It begins with recognizing that you were never defective, only wounded. And when you replace self-blame with understanding, the cycle starts to loosen its grip. Even when you understand the psychology, one question often remains. Why is it still so hard to leave? Why does walking away feel physically painful, almost unbearable? The answer isn't a lack of willpower, it's chemistry. A toxic relationship doesn't just affect your emotions, it rewires your brain. It operates on a cycle known as intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism behind gambling addiction. Affection and rejection are delivered unpredictably, keeping your nervous system in a constant state of anticipation. When things are good, when you receive attention, affection, or approval, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical associated with reward and pleasure. Those moments feel euphoric, not because they're healthy, but because they're rare. Then the connection disappears. Messages go unanswered. Warmth turns into distance. In response, your body releases cortisol, the stress hormone. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral. You feel anxious, restless, even physically unwell. When the person finally returns and the tension lifts, the relief is overwhelming. Dopamine floods back in, not as joy, but as release from pain. Over time, your brain starts associating this person with both the suffering and the relief from it. This is a trauma bond. Your body begins to crave the very person who causes the distress, because they've become the only source of comfort from the pain they created. That's why leaving can feel like withdrawal, marked by insomnia, brain fog, and a deep sense of panic or emptiness. What feels like love is often your nervous system trying to regulate itself. Intensity masquerades as intimacy, and until this cycle is understood, your body will continue to mistake emotional chaos for connection, even when your mind knows better. Many people who find themselves in toxic relationships are deeply empathetic. You notice pain quickly. You sense what others are feeling, often before they say a word. And when someone treats you poorly, your first instinct isn't to leave, it's to understand. You ask yourself what they've been through, what wounds they're carrying, why they behave the way they do. Empathy in itself is not a weakness, but empathy without boundaries becomes a form of self-abandonment. When you've learned to prioritize connection over safety, you may tolerate behavior that quietly erodes you. You excuse inconsistency. You minimize disrespect. You explain away emotional distance because you can see the hurt underneath it. In doing so, you slowly move the focus away from how the relationship feels in your body. Toxic people sense this, not consciously perhaps, but instinctively. They are drawn to those who absorb emotional weight without pushing back, who offer understanding without limits. This is how the imbalance begins. Boundaries are often misunderstood as punishment or coldness, but they're neither. A boundary is simply the point where your responsibility for someone else ends and your responsibility to yourself begins. Without boundaries, you become the emotional container for someone else's chaos. You listen, you reassure, you carry, and eventually, you disappear. Secure people don't stay long in situations like this. They notice discomfort early and leave. But when you're used to earning love, a red flag can look like an invitation to try harder. Empathy doesn't require self-sacrifice, and the moment you stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable, the people who thrive on that abandonment begin to fall away. Leaving a toxic relationship is often described as a moment of clarity or empowerment, but what many people aren't prepared for is what comes after, the quiet. Once the chaos is gone, a strange emptiness can settle in. Your phone is silent. Your nervous system, so used to constant activation, doesn't know where to focus. Instead of relief, you may feel flat, disoriented, or deeply lonely. This is the phase nobody warns you about. You might question your decision, wonder if it was really that bad, feel an urge to reach out, not because the relationship was healthy, but because the discomfort of emptiness feels unbearable. This doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means your body is adjusting. For a long time, intensity gave your day structure. Anticipation, anxiety, relief. These cycles shaped your emotional rhythm. When they disappear, it can feel like losing part of your identity. What you're experiencing isn't longing for the person. It's withdrawal. It's your nervous system recalibrating after prolonged stress. Without understanding this, many people return to what hurt them simply to feel something familiar again. The emptiness is not a sign that something is missing. It's a sign that something harmful has finally stopped. If you stay long enough, that space will begin to fill, not with chaos, but with clarity. And in that quiet, you start to remember who you were before survival became your personality. At some point, healing asks you to redefine what love actually means. If chaos was familiar, calm may feel empty at first. Not because something is missing, but because your nervous system is no longer being pulled into survival mode. There's no guessing, no chasing, no emotional highs followed by crashes. And without that intensity, your mind may whisper, "This doesn't feel like love." But real love is not a rush of adrenaline. It's not anxiety disguised as passion. Real love feels steady. It feels safe enough for you to exhale, safe enough to be seen without performing. Calm is not boring. Calm is what your body feels when it no longer has to protect itself. When love is healthy, you don't lose yourself trying to keep it. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to suffer to deserve it. If this video helped you feel understood, you're not alone. Share your experience in the comments. Your story may help someone else feel less isolated. And if you want to keep exploring the quiet, deeper layers of the human mind, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll continue this journey together. Thank you for watching.